one and indivisible.
Next item is open forum, and there is none, right? I thought that was on the agenda item. Yeah. Okay. Nothing in open forum. Okay, item 4, items to be removed from the consent agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go to the regular agenda. Item 6A, consider approval of a contract by and between the City of Nacogdoches and DSP Development LLC for the 2025 Carbon Valley Gutter Project and a not-to-exceed amount of $396,294.04. Mr. Opperman.
Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Director of Public Works and City Engineer. We do have before you the 2025 Curb and Valley Gutter Project Bid Award for consideration tonight. Just a little background. As everybody remembers, we passed the bond for several propositions, including street paving. And so this is part of that effort to expend those bond-funded dollars for the street improvements. And normally, this work would be done with a paving project. That's historically how we've done it. We put out a paving project, and not only does it include street rehab, it also includes curb and gutter repairs and installation of valley gutters where there's drainage issues at intersections and things like that. So, with the larger project that we're trying to put out later this spring to the tune of about 25 streets for paving, while it was too cold and rainy to actually do any paving, we wanted to get out ahead of it and do these curb and gutter and valley gutter installations while the weather prohibited paving. So we're going to see how this goes. It's kind of a new kind of process for us trying to do these ahead of time. And if it works well, then we may just continue to try to do these separate. Sometimes, you know, we don't always know when a general contractor bids on a project and then they sub out concrete work if we're always getting the best bang for our buck, so to speak. So we'll see how this goes. We do have 41 valley gutters and about 613 or so curb and gutter linear feet to put in the ground, and these are all on or adjacent to anticipated paving, streets to be paved this summer. Well, I say that there's one or two at intersections around town where we knew there were issues that needed a valley gutter, and so we threw that in there just to be able to get the economy of scale and get those done as well. But the vast majority of them are attached to these streets. So there's a map right there, and just as a clarification, this map is not of streets to be paved in the coming months. These are for the valley gutters and the curb and gutter installations. So there are streets such as Oakview Drive, which will be on the paving list this year, but you'll also see that there's a valley gutter there on Northway Drive. That does not mean necessarily that Northway Drive will be paved, but that there's a intersection at Oakview and Northway that needs a valley gutter. So hopefully that's clear as mud, but we will have the street paving list up on our website as well for the public to view. So just a little clarification there. But we did receive 3 bids on February 10th of this year. DSP Development being the low bid in the amount that you see before you, $396,294.04. This was right in line with what we had hoped to spend on this project. We estimated about $400,000 for this work, so we were pleased with that bid number. DSP Development is from Apple Springs. We have not actually worked with them before because they're a new company. They are still under construction on their first few municipal projects. However, the owners of this company have worked in this industry for several years, many years, more than 10 years, and they've worked on, 50 to 100 projects or more. So that, they said 50-plus projects, but in speaking to them on the phone, they said it was more like 200-plus. So, their prior employer was a well-known contractor. I won't mention them by name, but, since we have not worked with them before, we did do a little more due diligence on who these people actually are and what their experiences are. And so staff has reviewed, current projects they're working on, prior project types under their previous employment. We've asked them for basically a list of equipment and manpower that they have available at their disposal. We've had conversations with KSA Engineers, who you'll recognize their name. They do a lot of work for us. But they have direct knowledge of work that these folks have done with their prior employer, and they said this kind of falls right in line with what we're trying to do. So we were comfortable with that. We've also talked with the subcontractor that these folks are going to use on this work, and also with their banker, who has basically vouched for their financial abilities. So in reviewing all this information, between the engineering, legal, and purchasing staff, we do believe that they meet the definition of a qualified and responsible bidder. So we're comfortable recommending them to you for award tonight. Just to reiterate, this is to be utilizing the Tranche 1 bond funds that we pulled last spring. And so if there's no other questions, I'd be happy to, or no other questions from the public, I should say, I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Very thorough. Very thorough.
That'd be.
Anybody got any questions?
You mentioned that that some of the streets are on the streets that we'd considered under the bond. And I know you said we're going to post it. Where will we post the bond streets, or?
We have a CIP website. Well, it's part of our city website, but it's a CIP
Okay.
page in there, and all that
Okay.
information will be posted there, as well as really any bond-related project or CIP-related project, for that matter, that we have ongoing.
Okay. Is it there already, the streets that are going to be paved, or is
I'd
it?
have to go back and check. If
It's
it's not
okay.
already there, we'll make sure it's up there as soon as we can.
But it's under Public Works. It's under planning and
There's a CIP page.
page under.
It's easily
Sorry.
accessible from the. Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes I have a little, thanks.
I'm slowly adding to it every single day, adding a little content.
Oh,
It's
okay.
from the community tab at the top of the
Community
website.
tab,
You can go there and
okay.
see capital improvement projects.
Okay, good.
The short address is nactx.us/CIP.
Okay,
We've recently added, initiated an interactive map for all CIP projects right now. Only a small number of drainage projects are there. We will add the Curb and Valley gutter projects and try to distinct those from the street paving projects as well. But we'll be adding to the
Great.
map, we'll be adding content to that page, so it'd be a good page to bookmark for future updates.
That'll be really helpful. Thanks so much.
What was that slug one more time?
The webpage is nactx.us/CIP.
Thank you.
Easy for all you spelling champions out there.
Oh, that was rough.
Any other questions?
By chance, would University Drive in Maine be under this?
Well, no, sir. University Drive is actually a TxDOT owned and maintained roadway.
Okay.
Main Street is ours to a point, but it's also a Texas roadway as well. But was there a specific area you had in mind that we can?
Well, right now,
Relay
with
to the
it,
state?
with it raining, when you come through there on my way coming here, if you don't roll your windows up, you'll be full of water.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, we'll be sure to mention that issue, but they repaved University a few years back, but not sure what they've got in mind for it in the future.
I'm just talking about the drain. It needs drainage bad.
That's a harder issue
Okay.
to address, but we'll be sure they know the issue.
Okay. Just wanted to know if y'all.
But Case, with-
wet, that's why.
What about with the bridge project
That's what I
too?
was wondering.
I mean, that's another kind of nexus to the whole thing.
Right, and we do have, TxDOT is planning their rebuild and expansion of the Lenanda Creek Bridge. But, that could extend to that point on the west side of that intersection. and include that area.
Okay.
And that's coming in the next couple of years.
I think the one thing we might want to look at, since the elevation's going to change to there, at least to the roadway, we really need to have some conversations with them about what that kind of sub-area modeled impact might look like. Believe me, I was less of a mathlete than you are, and spelling, so,
They're modeling some of that.
yeah. I think that's critical, because that's not just the roadways coming through there, but you're going to have a whole different scenario with your impervious cover, plus they're raising the bridge, so you'll have more potential acceleration of water under, which could be good, but could also have other impacts.
We'll be sure we vet all that with them through their design phase.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the contract by and between the City of Nacogdoches and DSP Development LLC for the 2025 Kerbin Valley Gutter Project and a not-to-exceed amount of $396,294.04.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next, item 6B, consider resolution authorizing the submission of a preliminary application to the Texas Department of Transportation for the 2025 Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program. Mr. Opperman.
Yes, sir. Mayor, City Council, Case Opperman, Director of Public Works and City Engineer. This program comes around every 2 years. We apply for it every time it comes around. It's called it's through TxDOT, and it's called the Transportation Alternatives, or TA for short, set-aside program. Excuse me. It's for pedestrian and bicyclist infrastructure and planning. We've historically applied for sidewalks, just because all of our major thoroughfares are TxDOT owned, and that's where a lot of our public requests for sidewalks have been, and where a lot of our needs are. So we applied last time for this South Street sidewalk from East Craven down to Nazareth Way, almost down to the South Loop on the east side of the road. It did make it a couple of rounds deep last time, and so we felt like it was still a contender for this year's funding, and so we are going to put in a preliminary application for that one. And we also have an interest in putting in a preliminary application for how do we call it?
You mean it- yeah.
Basically an active transportation plan. So it's a pedestrian type planning effort for North Street between Main Street and East Austin. And so we hope to do that in conjunction with TxDOT on possibly a access management plan that we've been discussing with them. So that's, again, all for pedestrian safety, just trying to make that corridor a little better for pedestrians, a little safer. And so we are hoping to get some funding for that planning effort as well. The resolution before you is essentially just y'all's agreement to participate if we do get funding through TxDOT for these projects. Again, this is just a preliminary application. We still have basically one round of scrutiny to get through before they allow us to proceed with our detailed application. We'll find out sometime in April if we're allowed to move forward with a detailed application, and those are due June 20th, I believe. So I personally don't anticipate any issues with that. I think these proposed projects are right in line with what they want to use this money for. So I'm hopeful that they will let us go through with our detailed application for these two projects. And
Case,
so-
if I just add, the South Street project was very close to getting selected last go-around, that's one benefit. The North Street one, our discussions with TxDOT on access management with the district office are hopefully they will be able to come up, if this gets selected on the pedestrian side, they would make planning funds available on the access management roadway planning side. That's where we could also look at, is there a segment where we could bury closer to the campus, or someone could bury, or maybe Encore could make a donation to bury some of the lines, look at some shared driveways. I mean, again, right now you've got, I don't know what you have more of, vape shops or continuous driveways. And then also create really a cohesive, safe pedestrian environment. And also look at adding the historic style lighting we have downtown. You know, we've talked about it back here as part of the downtown discussion, but also all the way down North Street heading to the campus. And those transitions between streets, you know, even things like lighted in the pavement crosswalks, things like that at very high traffic areas near the campus. So that is a TxDOT roadway, so obviously we need their participation in making it what it could be. That's all I'm going to say.
So it would be definitely in conjunction with TxDOT on that effort. And so hopefully these projects will get their consideration. We do, it is eligible for at least 80% funding through TxDOT on these projects. And we are hopeful that with our population and with our demographics, that we may actually be eligible for 100% funding. So time will tell if that's the case, but the resolution tonight is essentially asking for your agreement to participate with at least the 20% match if these projects do get funded down the road. So
You've talked about the corridor down to SFA. Would you have a better shot at getting that grant from TxDOT or from Texas for just that rather than all the way to Austin and then do that at a later date? Because I know you're trying to bury lines and put the old-fashioned lighting in the downtown area. Does that have anything to do with it?
Well, we've went back and forth a little bit on that. The one thing is, if you kind of look at that cross section, you have some of the same issues up to that point, and then you get past it. The width issue is not as prominent. So if we could try to look at it, not create another choke point, which, I mean, I realize a lot seems like every road that's ever planned or every freeway project that's ever been planned has been to create a choke point to then justify the next phase of planning work and design and engineering design. That's the Aggie Full Employment Act. Sorry. But we thought that scope kind of fit really the cross section in terms of what you're kind of dealing with. So I had to work that in case.
sure, understood. Yeah, and we kind of get into an economy of scale here again. Same type of thing with, you know, is it that much more to go a little further from College to Austin? Well, they're already planning, right? So, I mean, going a little further with the current plan might make it a little better in the long run. So that's just kind of where we landed on that.
Okay. I just was curious because I know that was how far you wanted to connect SFA with downtown, and I thought that might help you. So,
Sure, definitely.
We're definitely open if TxDOT wants us to revise anything after this preliminary application and say, we could fund South Street, but you need to do a smaller segment, we'll be happy to
okay.
make any amendment in any, because I think the goal is to really get their eyes and focus on it. I'd like them to go ahead and move forward on as soon as they can resurface, because that's moved more than once in terms of just resurfacing north, which obviously it's their facility, but it would be great to have that wrapped up. Be great if it was spring break, but obviously that's not happening probably. But definitely before we get into summer. So.
I have a couple of questions, and then maybe a comment or two. Do we have any estimates on what this would cost if we did have to pay a portion of it? Do we have any preliminary estimates?
We've got a preliminary estimate on the cost, yes. Now you have to make me do mental math on what our 20% is, but we're essentially estimating that for the sidewalk, it's about 1.9 million. That's design and construction, hopefully all in. So 20% of that is what, $380,000 maybe. The plan, the active transportation plan, we're estimating about 150. So hopefully no more than 30 grand on our end.
So I know that we talked about how close the South Street project came last time, and that's in my ward. So I'm very passionate about making sure that we get this across the finish line. If there is anything that the council needs to do aside from resolution-wise, I know that we would all be willing to do that. I know there have been some auto pedestrian accidents on South Street historically, and so I want to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure we do this. And when you say from Craven to Nazareth Way, that's practically from downtown to the Loop.
That's South Street.
I
pretty
mean,
much.
it's all of South Street. So thank you so much for the work that the staff has done. I think this is another way that the city and this council show our commitment to pedestrian safety.
Yeah, and we're happy to do it. Again, we were a little disappointed last time to make it so far and then come up short. But, you know, historically, the city's been, we haven't had a whole lot of success with the TA program, but we have had a lot of success with getting TxDOT funding for sidewalks along their utilities. So we originally put in for a TA application way back 10 years ago or so when I first started here for North Street on the east side between Austin and the North Loop. Tried for that a couple of different times, never got it through this program, and then TxDOT said, hey, we got this other pot of money. Do y'all want to go after that with that? And we said, yes, sir, we sure do. And so through that program, we've gotten North Street sidewalks on not only the east side, but also the west side, and actually further on the west side down all the way to Star. We've also gotten them on Star and University, and they're about to get started on one on Douglas Road, headed up the hill. So if this one, you know, heaven forbid we don't get funding this time on this one, we will try again. And if there's ever an opportunity to get TxDOT to pay for it with that other funding bucket, then we'll sure put it forth, you know, at that point in time too. So we're committed to seeing a sidewalk on South Street.
Thank you so much.
So following up on both Brad and Chad's questions, and I know this has come before us before and we've gotten so close. Would it be worth our while to see if Goodman would have some language or anything that could push this a little bit further, or is it basically they're just going to fund what they're going to fund?
It's
And I know Rick has an answer to that.
something we've always tried to utilize, you know, outside support when
Right.
we can. KSA turned in our last detailed application
Yeah,
and did a fine job. Obviously, it went very far.
got close.
It's a pretty standard application, and so there is a little room for wordsmithing, but it is, you know, it is a pretty standard application, but we would consider using somebody like Goodman maybe, or another consultant to help try to get that through.
Get
So,
that last little piece.
I know, even though they could be watching, since they're going to be in town working on things, and God knows I've already pushed them on the other scope, if they want to put their eyes on it, I won't hold it against them,
Right, that's a good idea.
especially if it's for free.
Right. Sometimes those little words, I'm just shocked, you know, with all the grants and contracts that a couple little words might, so,
Do they
good.
give any
I like that.
feedback, like, well, you were almost there, but,
not really.
you know, just
Thanks
good
for
luck.
playing.
Good news.
Come again next time.
I've actually served on these review committees, and I'm surprised at, you know, what tiny little things make a difference. Yeah, or what you said about the streets, or the accidents, or you know, just impressive what. So, yeah, that'll be nice to have some other eyes.
Any other comment? Randy? Randy wants to talk. You thought I forgot about you, didn't you?
Created the online option today.
It's very nice.
It is very nice. I just wanted to say that I personally, and I know many of our community members are very excited to see this on the agenda again, because alternative transportation is one of the things I get very excited about. I wanted to encourage the city. I know that TxDOT makes a lot of the decisions in this one, even once they've agreed to work with us. But when you're a pedestrian walking next to North or South Street, having beautification barriers is a really good thing. And that means something like trees between you and the road, especially on South Street. when a car comes past you really quick, fast, and you're on North Street, and I walk regularly up that road in the summer, which is very hot. So beautification barriers like trees are both a safety-oriented feature, and it's also a health-oriented feature in that it's a place to stop and rest. Sometimes you're like, where do I stop and rest in the shade when you're walking? So I know that we're limited on the things that we can ask TxDOT to do, but I encourage you to think about asking for, at least in certain sections, because I know like space is limited and you have to buy people's property and stuff. So I realize there's a lot of difficulties with this kind of thing, but there are probably certain spaces along that long stretch that people will be walking to take advantage of beautification barriers. So I wanted to encourage you to do that, and just say that I'm excited to see how all of this pans out.
All right.
Go ahead, Rick.
And for this is from a planning perspective, looking at the, let's take the North Street project. And one reason we were looking at going to Austin and also looking at the issue of, getting deeper into it. Could you bury lines? Could you may even have to do some right of entry scenarios to have some carve outs, but we have Brazos Transit. We've talked about the historic style trolleys. Part of it would be looking at, the pedestrian amenities. So the pedestrian scale lighting, I could probably run through all of these. Why would we look up there first? Probably because of the amount of traffic. That being said, in a perfect world, especially if this gets funded, where we would look at street furniture, pedestrian scale lighting, maybe if you do have a one of the pull-offs or pull-outs, if you had a right of entry with a property owner, then obviously you can even trash receptacles, things like that, wayfinding, all of those things are eligible typically under those grants. So part of it would be planning that core, that spine of it. In a perfect world, would you take that same approach down South Street to the Loop and then from Austin all the way up to the Loop? Yes, because you have other neighborhood services or community services or shopping or medical all along that corridor. So the goal would be to do that now, and I've experienced this. I'll use Galveston as an example. The older the city, the tighter the right-of-way. And you also sometimes have other conflicts that you do not know until you start excavating, including you may have water lines, sewer lines, wooden pipes, and I've seen, yes, wooden pipes. I've seen trolley tracks that no one knew that were still there that were 2 feet deep. But those would be the type of things we'd start looking at as we would go through that planning process.
Talking about tight. If you go from South Street all the way up to North Street, there's one building that is in the right-of-way, and guess whose it is? Mine. It's 6 foot into the right-of-way.
If you would move it.
If you can blow it up, then it's yours. That's the only way you can have it.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, but it's, the state owns 6 foot of that building inside, so.
It gets tight in there, and that's not the only area, but.
Okay, any other questions?
Ready for a motion? I move that we accept the resolution as outlined in item 6B.
Second?
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, item 6C, consider approval of a budget amendment for the AMR transmitter and meter replacement capital improvement project acceleration.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Kevin Sardinia, Accounting Manager. Today I'm presenting this budget amendment for the meter replacement project. When this plan was was included in the CIP plan. It was based off of a proposal that had a timeline of expenditures split between 2 fiscal years. $772. So this is basically a housekeeping item. With the acceleration of Phase 2, all of it's going to end up being completed in FY25 and do a budget amendment for the remaining portion that was intended for FY26. And with that, we're also including the difference between the proposal and the final contract that was approved. So that's the 91,000 that we see there. And we're also including 85,800 for incidentals throughout the project. We want to make sure that we have that provision so it doesn't cause any interruptions in the project. So the total project amount after the budget amendment is going to be, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So how much, can you go back to the slide? How much was it for 2 years?
So
The total was,
4,772,000 split between 2 million this year, and
Yeah.
the rest was going to be.
and then the new total is,
4,948,000. So there is the difference is going to be the split between the 90,000 and the 85,000. So we're looking at 176,857 that we're going to be tapping into reserves for that, in addition to what was already included in the CIP plan.
And these are utility fund reserves, correct?
Yes, sir. Of course, the incidentals, if it doesn't get used up or if we don't run into anything, it rolls back into reserves.
And we have plenty of money in our utility fund to fund all this, correct? So,
And Kevin, just so everyone understands, incidentals is more of a is that more of a contingency?
It is a contingency.
Yeah, it's not like they're grabbing steaks, coming to town and
the word's
booking a
weird.
Gulf Stream and going to the Cayman Islands or something like
Yeah.
that. That's not that.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we consider approval of a budget amendment for the AMR transmitter and meter replacement capital improvement project acceleration.
I second the motion that we approve the budget amendment.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're not having executive session, so that includes our regularly scheduled meeting. God bless the great city of this Nacogdoches, Texas. Thank you very much for coming.